You might get a little bit of revenue that you generate, but it's almost a wash with the amount of time. In fact, the kids are going to play. It could be a good.
We have basketball next year. We do host basketball.
And we'll make a note of that and see if we can try to lobby a little bit more moving forward. The next question says, how are the annual stewardship forms distributed? So I don't know if Lynn and Amy would want to take that one.
Right now what we're doing is we're putting the stewardship forms in with the school registration at the back of the gym. The back of the church, thank you. As well as with the tax forms. So all parishioners' forms are in the back. And then at the end of 2 weeks, I think we gave 2 weeks, at the end of 2 weeks, all of the envelopes that were not picked up at church, we went ahead and mailed those out. That saved us postage and helped people keep it all together. And it was available online, yes.
All right, the next one said, in the presentation tonight, we had shared that we're looking to restructure the loan to allow for more cash flow. Said that Father Martin had announced at Pizza with the Pastor that we had potentially already done this. Is this the first or second time that we've looked at restructuring the loan? And then the comment was, should we be paying the debt off first versus restructuring the loan to extend those payments? I guess that goes to you, Tim.
The comments that were made at the Pizza with the Pastor were based off of the initial 3 conversations we had with the Archdiocese. And those 3 conversations all went very, very smoothly. When it came crunch time, when we sent in the formal request, the 3 prior meetings, the request didn't go smoothly because we had all based off the 3 prior meetings. So that's why Father Martin mentioned we were down there 3 weeks ago approximately, meeting with the leadership of the Archdiocese, just going over exactly what our stance is. They loaned us a lot more money initially than they normally loan a parish. They let us adjust our debt payments when we went from stewardship to tuition. So because they've done a few different things for us, the Archdiocese has an enormous amount of capital projects going on right now. If you drive to Gene Snyder from St. Mary's all the way around to Dixie Highway, there's 4 different parishes that are building large buildings. They just built a new school out in Elizabethtown. So they just want to make sure if we're trying to do something here that it fits in with the whole plan of what they're looking at. So we had a very, very good meeting with them. We're all very confident that we'll be able to get this done. So it is the same restructure that we talked about with Pizza with the Pastor. It's just taking a little bit longer. Second part of that question, does it make sense to pay the debt quicker in some of those issues? On an annual basis, something that many parishioners don't realize is just to cover our debt and interest payments and just to send our money for the assessment to the Archdiocese, we have to raise $1 million before we pay one light bill, before we pay one teacher's salary, before we do anything here. We have to raise $1 million to pay interest, debt, and our assessment to the Archdiocese. So, in the last couple of years, we've seen a smaller number of kids come into the first grade in kindergarten. We don't think that's a long-term trend, but we're looking further down the road, and we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can now. If we get plenty of revenue, we're going to pay this debt off as quickly as we can. Something else that we talked to the Archdiocese about that I think it's important everyone understands. We did a capital campaign here approximately 6 to 7 years ago, and my dates are off a little bit, I don't have my numbers in front of me, to pay down debt. The thought was then, at some point, 6, 8, 9 years down the road, we'll have another capital campaign to aggressively pay down debt. And then 3.5 years ago, we find out from the Archdiocese, they're doing a capital campaign. So that gave us 0 chance of doing another capital campaign as a parish only for a number of years. So part of my argument, at least that's the Finance Council's recommendation, and Father Martin as well, you won't be hearing about a capital campaign anytime soon. So we've done 2 of them in 6 years, 7 years. and the facility's in pretty good shape. But we just want to make sure we have room, take advantage of lower interest rates if we can, make sure we have room. We have this cliff that I referred to in 2018, 2019. Both loans right now mature within 6 months of each other. So we're going to go from making $60,000 or $600,000 a year in principal and interest payments to zero in about a 7-month period in 2018-19. To me, as a finance guy, that doesn't make sense to struggle for the next 5 years, and then voila, in 1 year we have $600,000 free cash flow. If we can stretch it, restructure one of those notes now, give ourselves a little bit more cash flow now, and then as we get out to 2018, 2019, we pay off the debt to the school foundation. That's the larger of the two. We take half of that money, put that into cash flow. It's approximately $25,000, $27,000 a month. Take half of that, put it in cash flow. Take the other half, expedite the archdiocese money we'll have remaining at that point. We clean that up in 2 to 3 years approximately. This all assumes we don't ever do another capital raise. Okay, so that's our thinking from the Finance Council. I hope that gives you plenty of detail on what we're thinking and why we're thinking that way. But if you want to talk about it further, we can chat on it. So that's what we're looking at right now.
What's the interest rate on the other loan, the commercial loan?
The commercial loan, Maggie, 3.75, is that correct, with BB&T? Yes. So the one we're aggressively paying down, and we don't have a lot of restructure options with. Bonds were sold. At least we don't think we're having options there. We're pursuing that with BB&T as well. But there were, that note is 3.75. The one with the Archdiocese is currently 4.76. That's the one that we're most focused on.
What would you say is the best argument for not extending the loan and paying off the debt?
Say that one more time.
Well, you just went through the benefits of increasing our cash flow, and typically increasing cash flow means the toll for that is more spending money. And I would rather have a set of example to pay off the debt on the track that we're on, make it lower, which is a good example for our government to follow. And it might be good, since this is typically as leaders of the parish, just to ask how many people would rather pay it off on the schedule we're on, or extend it so we have more spending money, and just see what the vote is.
Yeah. I'll touch on that. I mean, I don't have a problem trying to get the group as a whole to comment. One of the things that we're most concerned about is we just don't have the money in the current budget, so we've got to raise revenue. Okay, so like I said earlier, if stewardship continues to grow at the pace it's grown the last few years since all the marks come here, we may be fine. So if we get to the end of the year and we deferred $120,000 in debt and we've got $60,000 extra, we apply it to the note. I'm not one for extending the debt unless we need to. We've seen our enrollment drop in the school in the last 3 to 4 years from over 700 kids down to 650. So we're either going to have a significant tuition increase in our school, or we're going to have to cut. And we did some cuts during our stewardship tuition, and that wasn't very well received. We've had a pretty significant tuition increase in our school. We're already, if you all know this, we're already the highest, and we talked to the Archdiocese about this too. They're like, how much more would it cost per student? We're talking $200 or $300 more per student if we don't do this debt restructure on an annual basis. So we're already the highest Catholic school in our area. We don't have that gigantic base of families that send money in to help support our school. You go to a lot of Catholic schools that have been around for a long time in the city of Louisville, St. Albert the Great. The ones I compare us to, St. Albert the Great, St. Gabriel, or Lady of Lourdes. Their school families are not paying anywhere near the percentage of what it costs to send a kid to their school. Our school families pay a very, very large, almost the entire percentage of what it costs to send a kid to school here. So we're either going to have gigantic tuition increases, or we're going to try to get through this thing the best we can the next 5 or 6 years.
What percentage are on and what
Maggie, how many of do you know the number of our school children that receive aid, both from the Archdiocese and from St. Patrick? Do you know what the number is? We get very little aid from the Archdiocese, just because of our demographics. We do have some families that receive money from the Archdiocese, but it's not a large number of families. And then, like I mentioned earlier in my presentation, we do $100,000 a year to take care of our home.
This year,
22,000 from the Catholic school. From the Catholic Education Foundation this year, our families received 22,000, plus another 96 from our parish group. When you say the tithe, what percentage of our families tithe? 2/3? Been that way forever, right?
Which is a very high percentage compared to the rest of the country.
So we have 1,300 families. For a long time, it's been a third are school families, a third are non-school families, and a third we never ever see or hear from. So we've got 2/3 between school and non-school that tithe and do tuition. We have a third that we've even contacted them and said, are you a member? Yes. But we don't hear from them or see. And that's getting better. I mean, there's a lot of good positive momentum around this place right now. I think that's what we have to build up, and that's what eventually makes it easier when you have more of the longevity families.
I may have missed it. Are you saying that 1/3 pay tuition and 1/3 tithe?
No. 1/3 are school families.
Oh, they do that.
Yes.
All right, what other questions?
Tim Crowley, a little bit. It was just to add a couple things to Tim's comments there on the school side. The Archdiocese just last weekend had the Archbishop's, I guess you call it his pastoral council.